Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to SteelMaster Facebook Live. I'm William Swafford. I'm one of the design specialists here at SteelMaster. This is Scott Matthews. And we're going to be answering some questions that you might have. We're going to have a few that we will start with, and then hopefully some live feeds will come in and some questions will come up. If there's anything we can do, if you have any questions or concerns, or you want to talk about any topic about the SteelMaster buildings or archetype buildings in particular, please feel free to do that and to hit us with some questions. I think Scott's got one he wants to start with.
Real quick, I want to say hi to Kristen, Mary, Denny. Thanks for joining us. Kristen asked a good question about building a house to code compliant and what's the best recommended method for doing that. But there's some homework you have to do on your end where you have to make sure your plumbing, your electrical meets code. Your county is going to require a certain R value to meet code. If you got bedrooms that can't access the end walls, you're going to have an egress out the side for safety, fire. You have to have an egress out the side of the building. But a lot of those questions have to get answered prior to us talking about a specific building. But I hope that answers your question.
It's also a good opportunity for you to maybe take the counsel of an architect or possibly a general contractor. A lot of times, if you're going at this yourself, you might not have experience with the building code permit offices in your town, where your local contractor may have an arrangement or have a liaison or a connection, if you will, down there where he's getting permits for the jobs he's doing, things of that nature. Also, any architect that's in your local market should be able to address the questions of the egress and what the actual code compliance is. If you want this thing to be permitted and legitimate, you'll have to follow all those regulations, and they're going to be different for each town. They're going to require, like Scott said, egress for certain things. You're going to have window sill heights and things that are required. You're going to have a certain amount of insulation and things of that nature to build an inhabitable residence that's legitimate out there. Let me address one other thing we got a question on, which was collateral loads. This is a very common question in these, because you're going to build this home and you're going to have to hang some things in there. You're going to have to hang insulation. You're going to have to hang possibly lighting, or some people want to hang their ductwork in the ceiling. And some people do, some people don't. If you do plan on hanging anything in the structure, that's considered a collateral load. It's now a load that's hanging on that structure and putting a little more weight there. And it's going to make a difference in the way we design the building up front. To know that information up front helps us to get the snow loads designed properly, the wind loads designed properly, and make sure that we're getting the building designed into you in the proper gauge that we can actually put our stamp on for our engineer, so that you can get those permits. So any items that you think you're going to want to hang in there, you need to kind of have a sense of how much they weigh, where in the structure you plan to hang them, and then a sense of how you want it to look, and then we can kind of help you with that. If you're planning on lining the interior with a wall panel or a board or something of that nature, everything you hang in there obviously has some weight and needs to be considered as we're designing the building.
And to add what William just said, there's enough collateral load in most of the buildings for insulation and just light conduit. But another thing you have to consider is something on the exterior. If you plan on putting solar on the roof, you have to consider the weight per square foot. All that has to be calculated, and to figure in what gauge of steel you need, all that collateral load. And then Brian asked a question, Brian Champion, what if I go with no insulation? How will it affect the moisture and sweating? I mean, it just depends on a lot of factors. I mean, if you are going to condition the space, heat, air conditioning, you absolutely want to insulate the building. But there's people that use these buildings for workshops that are in mild climates in either direction, hot, cold, that you just make sure you ventilate the building properly. You got to have airflow. And then a lot of people do not have moisture problems once they do that.
Yeah, that's really the trick. If you don't insulate it, you have to ventilate it. You got to get air moving through it. And even when you do have insulation, it's a good idea to let air in and out of the structure to keep the moisture down. You're going to have that change between the interior and the exterior, and that's going to be a thing. that'll definitely that'll cause you problems if you don't. So we got a question here. What's the first step to consider when you're considering a Quonset home? Again, in my mind, the first thing you really want to be realistic about is your timeline. You want to get a sense of, for us anyway, we need to know a kind of, is this something you're doing this year? Is this 5-year plan? What exactly you're doing. Of course, you need to know where you're going to build this home. And again, that goes back to the loading questions of knowing about the wind and snow load considerations. And of course, it also lends itself to, whether you're going to be able to get other materials and how cost effective the entire project is going to be. Sometimes way out in the boonies, concrete's a lot more expensive than it is in the city, or even getting trades out there to do the plumbing and electrical. Those things might make it more difficult. These are things you'll need to consider. There's a huge list of things that you need to consider, but I think timeline and the location are the two big starters. And then, of course, what size building what are you trying to accomplish? How big is it? A 2-bedroom house? Is it a 1-room cabin? Is it 2 stories interior? Is it going to have balconies and lofts and garages? Is it multiple buildings? There's so many things that you have to kind of to put on the table. And we usually encourage you to kind of dream that dream. And I tell my customers, come to me with the dream. The dream home is 40 wide and 60 long. Okay. And if we can't get there price wise, then let's start, figuring out how we can budget, into the dream and still get as close as we can. But you really want to have all these things kind of figured out. Is there a local contractor that has experience? Do you have somebody in that realm that you can work with? Are you considering an architect, or are you planning on doing the entire project all by yourself as the general contractor, a true do-it-yourself deal, which is what most of our customers like to try and do. So, I would always start with the dream, get the idea down of who, what, when, and where, and then give us a call and see if we can help kind of point you in the right direction towards answering some of those questions, at least regarding the shell of the structure.
And Craig Becker just asked a great question. What effect will tariffs have on building prices, and when do you expect that to happen? President Trump has not identified anything specific about who those tariffs will be applied to. And United States and Canada exchange a lot of steel across the border. So there's no telling what's going to happen, but we don't expect that to happen with Canadian steel. But until the president defines it, it's a non-issue right now.
And these are typically marginal increases. When we see these kind of increases, these steel increases are typically small enough where it won't generally throw a project of this size away, because if you're talking a $10,000 building, we're talking a 5% increase. It's not enough money to really make it a huge detriment. But of course, we're always constantly, looking at the steel markets. If the market moves a little bit, we have to move to adjust with it. It's usually not something. A lot of times we absorb those costs and don't pass them along. It's a tricky business when you're working in commodity, but that's something that's going to affect anybody and everybody that's doing, working with steel across the board. So it won't affect us any more or any less than it affects our competitors or people that are making cars or anything else that's using steel to sustain itself.
Yeah, a lot of people want to know where Quonset homes the word Quonset comes from. Quonset was a town in Rhode Island where they first came about designing these buildings, and they mainly designed them for the military, starting World War II, and some of these buildings are still standing. A lot of them had internal framing, the same shape, but with internal framing, and weren't quite corrugated like the buildings we make today. And the steel we're using today, every component across the board, the steel we're using today is far stronger and just higher quality components than what they were using back then.
All right, I just got a new question here from Josh Davidson. Josh is looking to build a garage, and he's curious about what's the best way to insulate that. I'm wondering if he should try a spray-on or if he should be framing the interior of the insulation, insulating with fiberglass. That's an excellent question, Josh, and thanks for asking. That's really a personal preference. If you're building a garage and you need to hang things on the walls, what I typically recommend is a spray-on regardless. But you might consider framing that first, 7 or 8 feet of wall anyway, so that you can hang board on it and put a pegboard or hang tools or do whatever you want there. But usually, the spray-on is the quickest and easiest way. Maybe not the most cost-effective, but it typically is a little more durable, stays in there better, and it really does a great job of sealing the building up and eliminating issues of leaking and things like that that could be a potential down the road. I would contact my local insulation contracting outfit and see if what they recommend for a steel building. They usually have a couple of different products that they would offer to you, different thicknesses, and will get you a different R value, so you can spray it on in certain thicknesses to get that R value that you're looking for. You might just be, for garage, maybe just put an inch on to take the edge off. If you're going to be out there working all through the winter and you need it to be warm, you'll consider it more than that. But again, that's a question for the insulation guy. But we have a pin and clip system. If you want to use fiberglass bat, we have a system that we can sell you the pins and clips, or we can actually sell you the rolls of a vinyl backed fiberglass insulation like you would see in most houses or in a lot of steel buildings. But spray on is obviously the other option there.
And Kristen Green asked another question. How can I build a wall assembly within a Quonset hut that contains insulation, prevents moisture from entering the assembly, and incorporates an aesthetic wall covering while still maintaining the beauty of the arch-shaped structure? I mean, you can build a freestanding wall system within the Quonset hut, which many people do. Not everybody attaches walls to the Quonset hut itself, so you have both those options that are available. So people do 1-story, 2-story houses, stick framing the entire inside of that building out. So that's possible to do, and then some people actually cover up the metal or insulation in a Quonset hut with furring strips and liner, drywall, and then wood paneling.
And yeah, I think the question that she's also considering there is a vapor barrier, and you, of course, the vapor barrier is going to be important. The vinyl backed insulation, that's what that vinyl is. That's a vapor barrier, and you're going to want to create obviously a vapor barrier in that construction. Again, we're going to go back to your contractor, whoever's doing that work, to decide what's the best way to handle that, and we're going to let you use the best local construction practices for that. We don't sell vapor barrier. That's not part of the package. Again, we're selling the shell and having you handle that construction locally, and that's really going to be your best bet.
And Kristen, to address your question about the pin clip system, there is a heavy white vinyl face that you see on the insulation, and the back does have a foil back that impedes mold and mildew. So that's your vapor barrier on the back of that insulation. Yes, it does.
All right, I got a new question here from Jared. Jared's asking about framing out the interiors of the structure, and curious if we have drawings for that. We don't have a specific set of drawings that details exactly how you would frame the system out. We do have some instructional information, some typicals for furring and doing those kinds of things, and we certainly would help you understand how that works. But it's the building is bolted together with numerous bolts. The easiest thing to do is come in behind one of those bolts with a coupling nut on the tail, and then you can run threaded rod through the depth of the corrugation and pick up a furring strip that way, and then from there you can attach whatever you want. We do have some details on some of this stuff, and we actually have a construction consultant in-house, or you can typically call your sales rep like myself or Scott or whoever you end up dealing with if you when you buy to get you that information to help you understand how that happens and how you can best take care of that for yourself.
Yeah, and so also a lot of people want to know just the basic arch design. We have 2 arches: a standard arch, which is 7.5 inches deep, and then we also have a commercial or large arch, which is 9.75 inches deep. With the same gauge being equal in both of those, that large arch is 25% stronger. It just allows us to make much wider buildings than a lot of people in this industry. I'm not aware of any other company that has that large arch. So the holes in those panels are all pre-punched and there was one size nut and bolt, and that's what makes it a huge success as far as DIY kits go.
All right, I got another question from Kelly. Hi, Kelly. How's it going? Hope you're having a great day. Kelly asks, what are realistic timelines for design, order, and delivery? That's an excellent question. A lot of people call us in all different phases of this, whether it's their first call and they're 2 years out, or they've been working on it for 2 years and they're 2 weeks away from placing an order and getting started on the building. Typical building design part, it depends on, again, is it a custom building that we're doing from scratch as like a one-off, or are we going to work with one of our standard models? But the basic design timeline is a couple of weeks. Once we have an order in place and we all understand what we're ordering and selling, then that information goes to our engineering department. Engineering usually has about 3 weeks to get it through the process, make sure they code comply, make everything for your county where the building's going, make sure they understand the loading, and then make sure that the building is designed to meet all those environmental loads as well as the collateral loads that you may add to it, and then get the drawings stamped and on their way to you. You'll usually have those in hand about 3 weeks after we're contracted. From there, it's really a matter of when you're ready. You approve your drawings, and we usually will get you on the next truck that's heading to your region, and that usually takes somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 4 weeks. So typical 6 to 8 weeks from start to finish if it's pretty clean and simple. If there are revisions that need to be made, of course, if we send the drawings out and you want to change something, that kind of starts over again. And I've worked on projects that took 2 years to develop. I've worked on projects that were turned around, sold, and delivered within a month. It really is going to depend on each and every different project. Always encourage you to call in sooner rather than later. You can never have too much information and never be too far out in front of this thing. If you have a tight deadline, call. We get a lot of calls from people, I need this thing in 3 weeks. Well, it's not really possible to do that. It's very, very difficult. We've done it, but it is very difficult to get it all right and get it all to you that quickly. So we like you to be prepared. We like to understand what it is and be able to help you get exactly what you want. And that obviously requires a little bit of time. So good question, Kelly. That's one that we deal with a lot.
More question?
Okay, here's a new question from Craig again. Let's see, Craig, when do you receive foundations plans in the process? The plans usually come within the first month or so of the order. So once you have the order in place, you'll get, like I said, the engineering gets done, and then those plans get out to you. And that's an important question because our plans aren't the end-all be-all for this. If you're doing a home, you're likely going to have to wrap those plans into your architect's plans to go get your permits. You might need to show all the details of the interiors. There might be a lot more involved in it. So our plans are going to be the structural plans for the shell. Beyond that, you're going to have some interior detailing, the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, all these other things that need to be code compliant that are going to have to get wrapped into it. Again, something you're going to have to find out from the county and the permit offices what you need to submit to get your permits, and do you actually need to have a contractor or an architect that can help you do that.
All right. Any more questions before we wrap this up?
I guess not.
Well, thanks for joining us. Follow us on our social media channels for photos, customer stories, DIY tips, and dates for the next live chat. And also be sure to visit us at SteelMaster USA, where you can find all the information we covered today and deals on different kinds of buildings. We'll see you next time.
Have a great day.
Thanks.